When all else fails, they take you to war. And I've been thinking, how are they going to get the American people to go along with the inflationary environment they need to get out of this debt problem? Because as I've said before on this channel, we have $31 trillion in debt. It's impossible to get out of without massive inflation, continued 10, 20, 30% a year, which is very unpopular. Look at the last 2 years, how much people are suffering. Or straight up default on the debt, which has its own problems, meaning they don't pay interest, therefore they can't take out more debt, which has its own problems. But how do they get Americans on board with that 10, 20, 30%? War. A unified enemy. And you've probably seen in the news a lot of saber rattling going on. But how are we going to fight a war, um, however illegitimate it might be, with people who aren't fit enough to fight? I want to show you guys this article here from Zero Hedge. It says more than 75% of Americans age 17 to 24 aren't fit for military service. That is insane. That is a national security issue. Can't fight a war without manning. War is often about attrition, and if you don't have enough people to fight, you lose. As the U.S. military struggles to fill the ranks of new recruits, a new report from the Department of Defense reveals that the vast majority of Americans aged 17 to 24 are unfit for military service. Citing a February 16th congressional hearing, a DoD report reveals that 77% of Americans in the above age group could not physically qualify to enter the armed forces, a 6% increase from 2017. A key factor is obesity, which hit nearly 42% in 2020. Meanwhile, a 2022 study cited from the Epoch Times found a link between receiving government food assistance and a greater chance of becoming obese through the consumption of unhealthy foods. A 2015 USDA analysis found that 40% of total SNAP participants were obese. Now, if you see a correlation with income and lack of nutrition, what do you think is going to happen with inflation? Do you think those numbers are going to go up or down? People have to lower their quality of food just to survive. And so you see people at the lower rung receiving SNAP benefits who are obese. 40% of them are obese. And do you think that's going to continue or go down? It's going to continue to go higher. So how are we going to fight a war with people that can't even make it into the military? Further reading here. So the Army has this new program. I've talked about this. It's basically a fat camp for soldiers who cannot make it into military qualification, but this takes time and resources and money away from the military. So they're putting it into this future soldier preparatory course, which is, I guess, needs to happen now. But it's designed to expand the pool of eligible Americans who join the service by creating short camps to help applicants reach Army standards. The service came up short of its recruiting goal last year, bringing in 45,000 new active duty troops, well below its 60,000 goal. That is insane. And what happens is you have the troops who are already in, if they can't recruit enough, then do they lower the deployment cycles? No. Do they lower the workload? No. Now these soldiers who are in currently now have to take on the work of two people because they can't recruit enough. And those soldiers who are overworked, underpaid, yada, yada, decide to get out. So retention's going down as well. So this year, the service even has a more ambitious goal of 65,000 new recruits, according to military.com. Applicants in the program have 90 days to boost their score and lose body fat to come into compliance with Army standards. So far, 3,206 students have attended one of the courses, of which 2,965 have graduated and moved on to basic training. So, obviously, the program's working, but again, it's taking time, energy, and resources away from the war effort or from preparing for war or becoming more lethal, which is the job of the military. Dangerous dilemma. In September 2022, U.S. Army General bluntly said that young Americans are either too obese, too sick, too criminal to serve in the military. Some of the challenges we have are obesity, we have pre-existing medical conditions, we have behavioral health problems, we have criminality, people with felonies, and we have drug use. Okay, obviously our country is on the right track, according to all politicians, except we don't have anybody even eligible to join the military. Okay. The general statement came as a response to the difficulties the U.S. military has in reaching its target goals for recruits in 2022. The struggle prevalent in the U.S. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force has prompted security analysts and some of the U.S. institutions to declare obesity a threat to national security. Notice it was never brought up in the last 2 years when it came to health problems. But all of a sudden, where rubber meets road, aka national security, also known as reality, um, it's an issue you cannot avoid. Further reading here. Obesity is a security threat. Each year, more than 60 million goes towards replacing the 1,200 plus first-term enlistees discharged for excess weight. She said that high obesity rates have narrowed the recruiting pool considerably. This is an Army recruiting expert, coupled with falling intelligence and education standards. Most advanced economy in the world, folks. And yet, the American recruiting pool is fat, dumb, and lazy. She also has noted that along with reducing resiliency and flexibility, the military is less prepared to meet asymmetric or conventional challenges. Active duty soldiers struggling with obesity are also 33% more likely to suffer musculoskeletal injuries. So you got to wonder, how are these politicians going to skin this cat if, because again, when all else fails, they go to war. They'll figure out a way. How are we going to fight a war with people who aren't physically capable of doing so? And if the standards are there and you lower them, why were the standards there in the first place? So last little sentence here. Lowering the bar. In response to the challenges, the U.S. military is adjusting its fitness requirements for some jobs, especially those that aren't physically demanding, such as technology-based positions. Zuckerman, the recruiting expert, cautioned that lowering the bar within the U.S. military could set a dangerous precedent. You think? While it's true that technical developments such as the use of a unmanned aerial vehicle and AI have displaced some human participation in the field, much of the combat still relies on conventional human performance in the field. Meaning, even if you work in an office stateside in garrison, when you deploy, you could be asked to do things or need to do things that require agility, situational awareness, astuteness, etc. This is an to me. This is this is a product of our time. This trend has been going this direction for a decade or more. No one wanted to say anything until it's a problem. That's kind of how the way politics works. Don't mention it until it's right at your doorstep. But this will this will create an awfully huge problem for those in politics who say, "Hey, how do we convince these dumb rube Americans that inflation's good for them?" I don't know. We have inflation because we're going to war with XYZ country who's very, very bad. We need to unite. They've done it many times before. Who's to say they won't do it again? And if they don't do that, how else do they sell this to the American people? Because the other option, other than war, to get out of this, when I say get out of this, I mean figure out what the truth is to really tell the American people, hey, we done screwed up. All right. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep spending. And we're going to have to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, yada, yada, yada. I just don't see that as likely if we're playing a game of probabilities. Love to know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Peace.